Hi everybody. Let me know if you can hear me in the comments, please. All good for sound? Hi Tim, I'm so happy to hear you. You can hear me okay, that's great. So welcome everybody. I'm really excited to try out my first ever live stream in any capacity. I've never done this before in my life, so please be a little bit patient with me as we go forward today. As it says right across the banner on your screen, today we're going to be chatting about all things decluttering and minimalism. So I have received already a few questions in advance. I'm going to go over those ones immediately, and then I will jump to the chat and see if there's any follow-up questions or if anybody who's watching right now has any questions. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And we're definitely going to save this video and upload it later. So in case you need to jet off at any point, I understand everyone's busy, but I really appreciate you being here. So let's jump into the questions. So Going Green Mom asked, what is your vision or thoughts on using one with decluttering? And so when we talk about visions with decluttering, that is something that's very distinctly linked to Marie Kondo. And she talks about imagining when you're starting your decluttering process or journey, that ideal lifestyle. So what are you hoping to gain from your decluttering journey? And I think that that's definitely a great spot to start if you're not sure about, next steps or how to begin. I didn't personally start with a vision. I did start with an idea of how I wanted my home to feel. And that was sort of my guiding North Star, guiding light on this whole journey. So I thought to myself when I first started these minimalism games a couple of years ago, when I come home at the end of the day, I'm a working mom. I'm sure there are a lot of you out there that are balancing a bunch of different competing priorities. When I come home at the end of the day, how do I want my home to feel? And so that was really key to the why behind my process. And so that's something that you're going to have to think about as well. What is your why? So are you looking for your home to feel less stressful? Are you looking to gain more time and energy for other things? These are all going to help fuel that motivation for your decluttering journey. So like I said, my driving force was really trying to make my home feel less stressful. When I first started this journey, my kids were 8 and 4, and it was tough because as a working mom, I was working 40 hours a week, and then I was coming home on the weekends, and it just felt like I was never getting ahead because I would be, tidying and organizing for hours on end. And I really felt a huge disconnect in where I actually wanted my life to be. Right? When I'm at home on the weekends after a long work week, I don't want to be shuffling clutter around. I wanted to be spending time with my family, deepening the connections with my children, doing meaningful things with my time. And what I found myself doing a lot of the time was, trying to reorganize the clutter, trying to shuffle things around, labeling and relabeling bins. And I was doing all this work and I was putting so much time and energy into it, but I wasn't getting anywhere, it felt like. And it was because I wasn't letting go of enough. I wasn't decluttering enough. And so when you own too many things, it's hard to get ahead in that way. But one of the things that I realized when I started, peeling back those layers of clutter, because really and truly, it was layers of clutter. And I said this before, I decluttered way past what I ever thought would be required on this journey. The longer I decluttered, the more ruthless I became and the more layers of clutter left my home. and it was really incredible. But what I discovered was that the more that left, the more I gained. So, I gained that time, energy, and capacity for doing other things rather than spending my weekends cleaning and organizing and battling the clutter monster. So, one of those things was starting this YouTube channel and being able to try my very best to share my experience, share my story, share my tips, and help others. So, my decluttering journey has really led me here, and I think that's great. I'm still, as I've mentioned before, I'm still actively decluttering, but my home is so much more manageable now. Oh, I'm just getting a comment to turn the music down a little bit, so I will do that. Thank you for your patience. The comment is coming from my husband. So I hope you can hear me and that you heard me over the music there. Like I said, this is my first attempt at live streaming. I'm not necessarily the tech savviest person in the world, so that's why I definitely needed a little bit of patience and support on your end on this process. So as I was saying, even though I'm still actively decluttering and peeling back those layers, my home definitely feels more manageable now. And I really think that it's that feeling that has really driven me, being able to reduce that stress level for myself. And I know this applies to a lot of other people out there. So our next question, Karina, how to declutter without your space feeling empty? I want my living room to feel cozy and I want to put some seasonal decor, but at the same time, I don't want it to feel too cluttered. I hear you. How much you declutter is really a personal choice, and it has a lot to do with your own personal clutter threshold. And that's not a term I've coined, that's just a term that's out there in the minimalism space. And your clutter threshold has to do with how much clutter feels okay to you. And that's going to be different for different people. For the extreme minimalists out there that, want to own 33 items total, their clutter threshold is very, very low. And so you're going to have to decide where on that spectrum you are. And that's a personal choice. I don't believe in dictating to anyone, you should only own 30 items of clothing or you should only do this or that. Everyone's decluttering and minimalism journey is so personal, and you're really going to have to assess along the way where you fit on that threshold. I've discovered as I've decluttered more and more that my threshold is a little bit lower over time. So I really feel that your home should feel comfortable and cozy. I'm personally not an extreme minimalist. As we go through more and more videos on this channel, you'll see more and more of my home. And my home is not an extreme minimalist home by any means. I live with a musician and a computer nerd. So he comes with his cords and his music and tech equipment and everything like that. My daughter is, I'm sitting in front of her art studio, actually. Our offices are side by side. And she's a creative. She's really into miniatures and things like that. So she comes with art supplies, and that's okay. So, you have to kind of work with who is living in your home and that sort of thing as well. But with regard to seasonal decor, I have personally drastically reduced my seasonal decor. And the reason I did that was because I wanted to have those special pieces shine. And so, I have a friend who knit us these really cute bunnies. And so I put those in pride of place at Easter without a whole bunch of other things around them, so that people can see them, that they're noticeable, and that they take a center stage, if you will. So I really believe, especially for seasonal decor, or decor of any kind, that less is more. One of the ways that I try to make my home feel comfortable and cozy is I love blankets, I love candles, I love plants. We've had this peace lily behind me for I think 20 years, and somehow we've kept it alive. So that's great. But those sorts of aspects, think about the things that you love and you want to have around you, right? Minimalism and decluttering isn't necessarily about getting rid of everything. It's about giving those special items pride of place and surrounding yourself with items that you love rather than the excess. Okay, Christina asks, how has decluttering and minimalism changed your thoughts about gift giving and shopping in general? If you've seen any of my other videos so far, you know that I'm a former shopaholic. I wasn't necessarily a shopaholic with regard to always buying things for myself. I was just excessively generous. I love to buy friends really nice gifts or buy things for my children, that sort of thing. But it was to excess, right? So with regard to shopping, as I've gone through the decluttering process these last few years, it has honestly really cured me of that need to buy more. And just the time and the energy and the physical effort and kind of mental decision fatigue involved in decluttering so much excess. Like, as I said, I reduced the inventory in this home by 8,500 items. Working through all of that cured me my shopaholic ways. I am just not as inclined to even want to shop. But I also have learned along the way what my shopping triggers are. And so I don't have Amazon Prime. And I really try my very best to avoid artisan markets. I am a sucker for an artisan market. I love, crafts and pottery and things like that. Anything, and I love supporting others, right? So I am, in my past life, I was always bringing home mugs and everything else that you can think of from these types of markets. And they're beautiful and I wanted to own them. But I realized on this journey that you can see something when you're shopping or at a market or something like that, and you can appreciate its beauty and you can look at it and think that's cute, and then you can walk away. You don't have to own every beautiful item that you see when you're out and about. And that, it's funny that I got to be, almost 40 years old before that lesson clicked for me, because I know for a lot of people that's something that they learn early on. But for me, that took a little bit of trial and error to get to that point. But yeah, so I think that the other thing is that decluttering gave me a huge appreciation for how much life our stuff costs us. And as I was talking earlier about like the decluttering and taking my time and energy away, everything you own owns you in some capacity. When you bring something home from shopping, you have to think about, where am I gonna keep this item? I have to take care of this item now. At some point along the way, it might, need to be donated or something like that. Everything we bring in is something more we're adding to our life to take care of, to keep safe if it's something delicate. And you have to question, do I love this thing enough that I want to take that time and energy away from other things? And that has really helped me in my shopping decisions. With regard to gift giving, as I've been going through the last few years, it's really given me insight into what a burden things are. And so that has really shifted how I think about things like birthdays, Christmas, other holidays, where there could be gift giving involved, because I don't want to burden someone I love with something they might not even want. And so I have really leaned into gifting consumables. So unless someone specifically asked me for an item, and I know that's definitely something that they want, I will lean towards a consumable that might bring some joy to their day, but that's not going to live in their home forever collecting dust. And so, for example, I love to give flowers. My friend Janine recently had a birthday a couple months ago. I sent her some flowers, she was able to enjoy those for her birthday, and then they went away and they didn't live on in her home forever, right? She was able to see that I was thinking of her and I appreciate her friendship, but that I wasn't gifting her some sort of knickknack, right? So just think about those sorts of questions when you're thinking about gift giving. Even certain holidays have a lot of consumerism built into the marketing, right? Think about, for example, I celebrate Christmas. For a long time, I thought Christmas had to be lots and lots of gifts for my kids or they wouldn't be happy. Over the last few years, we've really drastically reduced the gifts that we give on Christmas morning, or that Santa gives. And the children have not noticed. And so we're trying to shift away from the focus being on Christmas morning and more about family and the experience of being together at the holidays and things that we can do together. So if you don't want to gift consumables, the other thing you can do, and it's really great for parents to receive these types of gifts, are gifts of experiences or lessons or things like that. You know, if you gift movie tickets or skating lessons or swimming lessons or an amusement park pass to a family with young kids, that is an amazing gift, because not only are you not gifting them clutter, you're gifting them the ability to have an experience together without having to worry about the cost, or to be able to give their kids an opportunity like swimming or skating or any of these types of extracurriculars that can be super expensive without the parents having to, you know, think about where is this money possibly coming for this activity. So these are as I've gone through the process, I've started trying to think outside the box on shopping and also gift giving. And I would encourage you to do the same and just try and think about, is this what I believe about what gift giving should be like, or is this what I've been told I should believe? And I've been trying to make decisions for myself rather than follow along with what I've been told and what's been marketed to us, right? That's really been an important part of my journey, and I hope it will be an important part of yours. Okay, this question I love to get because I know it's so difficult. You might have watched, 5 or 100 decluttering or minimalism videos, and you're motivated and you're excited, and I've been there, and you really want to just get going and empty your house and start fresh and all these things. But wait a minute, you live with other people, and so you kind of have to, involve them in the process, adjust for what their expectations are, and you can't just necessarily make decisions on behalf of other people and their things. So I think that one of the most important things you can do if you are interested in motivating your partner is to declutter your own items first. And it's not just about the fact that it's your things and whoever owns the item should make the decisions about it. It's also about thinking about how overwhelming it can feel, even to somebody who's super motivated. There are so many people I get questions about, I really want to get going, I don't know how to start. Think about that, and think about if it's somebody over here who maybe is not as interested in decluttering and minimalism as you are. How are we going to invite them into the process rather than try and force it on them? I think that's a really important thing to think about. So I think that you need to put yourself in their shoes. They might not be as ready as you are. So do your decluttering first. Go through as much as you can. And there's a reason for that. It's not just because you own those things. It's because when you do all of the decluttering you can possibly do on your own, you're doing the work yourself, you're building up that decluttering muscle. And what we mean by a decluttering muscle is your ability to learn how to kind of quickly make decisions about what you will and won't keep. With time and practice and experience on anything, whether it's learning to play baseball, learning to bowl, any of these things, decluttering is the same. You build up that muscle and that capacity to do the task, and then you can be in the best position possible to be a declutter coach or a declutter buddy or a cheerleader to that partner who may or may not be as motivated as you are. When you're in that place, that's the time, and or at least from my experience, I was in that place before I started inviting my husband in a little bit more on the whole journey. As I mentioned before, he was inspired along the way. He was I would say quietly inspired. We didn't necessarily talk about it at the time, but I had massively decluttered my closet, and we share a closet, and he started decluttering his clothes without me even, nagging him or trying to pressure him in any way. He saw the difference it made for me, and he started working on his own clothes. So he was sort of inspired to start his own process. And then when it got to be the point where I couldn't really declutter anymore on my own, I really needed him to step in and help. It was when we got to places like the basement or the garage, where there was the majority of the items were his things. I just was not able to make those decisions for him, and I wouldn't have, right? Because I don't know what cords go with what piece of machinery or equipment or tech or what have you, right? So I'm not going to just willy-nilly go in there and start decluttering his cords for him. So I really needed to invite him into the process at that point to make further progress. And because he had already been watching me along the way and participating a little bit with his clothes and things like that, when I suggested, hey, can you meet me in the garage this afternoon for 30 minutes and we'll tackle a little bit of the garage together, he was receptive. I gave him a short amount of time. I asked him when he was available to do that, so I gave him some options on the timing of it. And I said, we're going to set a timer. And when the timer goes off, we're done. And so we started doing that, and that was super effective. I didn't know how effective it would be, but I thought we would try it. And that's one of the key things with you and your partner, is just figuring out between each other what's going to work. Maybe your partner's also gung-ho and they will jump right in with you from the get-go. Maybe they're a little more hesitant or need to be brought on later on. But for my husband and I, that's what worked really well. And so the majority of the time, I would set the timer for 30 minutes, but once we were rolling together, he was super motivated and he didn't necessarily want to stop at that 30-minute mark, right? So I often got a little bit more work out of him than I was expecting, which was great. It helped us progress. But yeah, so meet your partner where they're at. And for my husband, that 30 minutes, for whatever reason, for him, that felt like a manageable amount of time. And there was once or twice where he came to the garage, the basement, or wherever we were working, and he said he worked for 10 minutes, and then there was something going on, or he was stressed, or something was amiss in some way, and so he said, okay, I'm done. And the 30 minutes wasn't up yet, but I said, no problem, we're done. So really try to make the process as comfortable as possible for your partner if you want to succeed, because forcing them or pressuring them or pushing them past their abilities or their capacity is not something I would recommend you doing. They're your partner for a reason. And interestingly enough, I really feel like this minimalism project or process has really brought us together as partners, because we've been working together on a common goal. And so our communication has improved. We're less stressed because there's less things in our home. I think minimalism has actually been a really great thing for our partnership. So I'm going to just share the things that worked for my husband and I. As I mentioned, tackling projects with a timer was great for us. And the other thing that worked really well for us, and it works really well when I work with friends, is the idea of body doubling. And that's where I'm nearby, I'm supporting their choices, or I might even be holding an item up, yes or no. I'm just there, but I'm not making any choices for them. They're making the choices for themselves. But having that supportive person nearby really helps make the process feel a little bit less intimidating, a little bit more comfortable, more relaxed, and more fun often, especially when I'm decluttering with a friend. So as I mentioned, what I found really interesting in this process is that I really believe that minimalism made my husband and I better partners. And it was that working towards a common goal. And it doesn't necessarily have to have been minimalism. It could have been any sort of project, but working together really strengthened that bond. Okay, cook with Janine. What's your favorite part of helping someone declutter? Cook with Janine is my friend Janine. I have helped her declutter many, many times as she's gone through her own process, and the layers of clutter for her have come away. It's been really fun. I love helping other people. When I help somebody declutter, I feel a sense of purpose in the process and pride in the work. And even though it's not my own home, seeing the before and after transformations is really satisfying for me as well. So I was recently at Janine's, we worked on her garage. Looking back over the footage of seeing her garage shelving looking tidier and decluttered was amazing for me and for her. Going back over, looking over projects can be really motivating and satisfying to see. Excuse me, I just need a little drink here. So in addition to the feeling of satisfaction, I love the company. Decluttering with a friend is just way more fun than decluttering alone. So those are all the questions I have in advance. I'm going to go to the chat. Hi, Tim. Hi, Janine. Hi, Sherry. And okay, so we have a question in the chat from Janine. Can decluttering be a negative addiction? It's interesting. I was just listening to a podcast, I think it was yesterday. And Joshua Fields Milburn, who is one of the minimalists, and you'll know them or you could Google them. He said, anything can be an addiction if you push it past that feeling of enjoyment, right? So if you're looking to be on a decluttering journey and you start to compare yourself to other people and you start to think to yourself, oh, okay, well, this person has 4 forks and I have 12, so I'm really failing at this minimalism thing, and I really need to get to that 4 fork thing. Once you start making it a comparison thing and a striving past your comfort level, then it can become problematic for sure. Anything can probably become an addiction if you take it way too far. And so I mentioned this earlier in the chat, but you really need to think about your own personal journey and what feels comfortable and cozy and everything else for you. If you want to be an extreme minimalist, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. But make sure that's your personal choice and you're not doing it because you're feeling pressured from the minimalism or decluttering space that you need to meet that mold as well. One of the great things about my decluttering and minimalism journey is that I feel like I have really gotten much better at listening to myself and what I want, what makes sense for me. And so I think that that's a really important thing to consider. My decluttering and minimalism journey has been really one of thoughtfulness and reflection, and reflecting on my past, reflecting on my future, thinking about choices and decisions and actions I've taken or not taken. And so make your journey about yourself rather than about what everyone else is doing. And I think that would help keep you from going too far. So Tim says, how I wanted my home to feel. That's much the same thing that started my own journey. I love that, Tim. I think that how our home feels is so important to our sense of comfort in our day-to-day life. And so I think that that's an important way to kind of target your process. Hi, Pam. Oh, and Janine says maybe turn down the music a bit, so that's a little bit old. Clutter Monster, yes. He lives in my house. Can we kick him out? One thing about the Clutter Monster is that, as I mentioned, over time, you will become most likely a little bit more and more ruthless with what you're willing to let go of. And you will surprise yourself with the amount of items that were in your home. In Janine's home, and she lived in a nice home, nothing excessive necessarily, but we were able to remove quite a bit from her home, and we were both pretty surprised. Hi, Going Green Mom. Okay, so that's it for questions, I believe. So I do have a special announcement. We are going to start a 30-day minimalism game October 1st. And I chose October 1st very specifically because it's sort of in that space right before the holidays and all of that busyness starts. And it's 30 days, so it will end before Halloween. And it'll kind of just give you that starting point or refresh if you've already been decluttering to get you sort of set up well for the holiday season. If you didn't know, this will have been, I'll be doing it with you. It will be my 14th round of the minimalism game. And within that game, you declutter almost 500 items in a month, but on kind of a gradual basis. So I don't know if I have 500 more items to leave this home. We're gonna try, we're gonna see. But I'm really excited to do this with you guys and support you guys and cheer you on along the way as well. So I will be sharing all of my tips and tricks for how you can be set up for success in this game in an upcoming video. You know, how to kind of target your decluttering and how to kind of set yourself up to be able to actually complete it if that's your goal. And so I hope that you will join us. I'm really excited. I've heard quite a bit from people in the comments that they would like to do this. So I will be sharing videos, and I'll also be in the community tabs daily, sharing my decluttering process as well. So this is super exciting for me. I hope it will be for you as well. And this will be the end of our chat, unless there's any more questions in game. Okay, great, Janine. Thank you. Anyone who would love to join is certainly welcome. And we will be tackling this together. I think that, as I said, it's always better and more fun to declutter with a friend or to declutter in a fun way. It just really helps the process move along and in an enjoyable way for everybody. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your patience and your questions and being here to support me as I try out something new. I have really enjoyed chit-chatting with everybody in the comments, trying my very best to support you guys with different questions that you've had. You can always reach me in the comments of any video, and I will try my very best to respond as soon as I can. And just thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I know time is valuable, and thank you for spending your lunch hour with me. If you liked this live, don't forget to like, and when we upload it, like the video, and also subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to the channel. And thank you. That's about it for today. So happy Friday. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend and that you're getting ready for this decluttering game that we have coming up. Thank you for being here. And of course, let me know in the comments what you're decluttering today.